We are talking about your nutrition and how you can boost your immunity to ensure that you are ready in case of an infection of COVID-19 or just to be healthier now that we're all indoors. Now, Stella Kimani has been discussing the various ways we can do that. She is a clinical nutritionist. Now, tell us about, you are explaining about COVID-19 and what such patients, the various categories, would actually need in order to make sure that they are strong enough to withstand it.
Right. So, with COVID-19, we have different categories of patients. So we have those who only have coronavirus, right? So those ones, at least you're sure you're just dealing with one condition, and we know what we call the pathogenesis, or how that disease is going really to move along from mild stage to advanced stage, right? So then you start with nutrition management early enough.
Okay.
Because if you start boosting the immunity or supporting the immunity to help the person recuperate better early enough, then the person has a better chance of, one, staying a shorter time at the hospital, right? Because they recover faster, and also for them to have a full recovery. Okay. Then we have another category of people who have another condition, another underlying condition.
That would make them vulnerable.
In addition to corona. So that will make them more vulnerable in terms of malnutrition.
Okay.
So, for instance, we have people who are diabetic. So you're looking at a condition where somebody is diabetic, so they may require more energy, certain micronutrients or certain nutrients. But also you need to look into the sugars.
Right.
Because if you're not monitoring the sugars, then that could be what takes the person
Wow, so you
down,
might be treating COVID-19, but then there's this other thing that we've completely forgotten because, you know, we are focusing on the new thing.
Right, so the team must look, like do a wholesome approach to managing in terms of individualizing care. So depending on what other condition the person has, then you individualize their nutrition care based on what you're dealing with.
Right.
Somebody could have HIV, right, as well, in addition to corona. Somebody could have lupus, okay? Some of those conditions also lead to stuff like kidney failure or compromised kidney function, or could lead to multiple organ issues, right? Corona in advanced stage also has its own complications in terms of organ failure and, you know, impairing certain systems.
Right.
So from the word go, when you have the corona patient, you must look, like, start from the end backwards, right?
So this would also be, the onus would also be on the patient to be quite forthcoming with information, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So when the medic or the doctors are doing the history of the patient, the assessment of the patient, I would highly advise the patients to be very open. Say all conditions that you have. Say your lifestyle, you know, any lifestyle habits that could, you know, compromise your treatment, like smoking. Remember, corona is affecting the lungs.
The chest,
So if you're also smoking, then that increases what is called inflammation, and that makes recovery very difficult. And even WHO has really advised people not to smoke and take alcohol and, you know, do anything that could compromise the recuperation or the healing process.
Okay, so people, let's just sample a few conditions that could be make one quite vulnerable. Let's talk about anemia or sickle cell anemia. How would this person be able to boost their immunity, whether they have it or whether they're just at home, and in their plates? How would they tweak it to ensure that they are more, you know, strong?
Okay. So again, that's where the nutritionist comes in. And it's important to, again, get assessed so that you get individualized care. But for anemia, of course, the main thing they're exposed to is having the nutrition, the immunity compromised, because, you know, your red blood cell levels go low,
quite low,
right? So you need to look into nutrients that are supporting your blood, right, to boost your blood levels. And that is something like iron, right? We have vitamins that do that as well, like vitamin C. We have B vitamins that help in that process, because there are certain types of anemia. There are different types of anemia. Okay? And each type of anemia calls for certain action.
All right.
But what we are used to is when we are faced with anemia, we mostly think iron.
Iron.
But iron is just one part of the puzzle.
Okay.
So nutrition is a lot of times it's simple in a complex way. So you may think it's one of those things, I mean, I've been eating since before I was born, right? So you might think it's something you're innately able to figure out, but the nutrition system is a lot more complex. That is why in nutrition we always talk about individualized care.
Right.
So that I'm looking at, okay, we have COVID-19. What else does the patient have? Right. What is the age of this patient? Are they pregnant or not? Do they have allergies? Do they already have deficiencies?
Okay.
Because you could have corona and you already have deficiencies. So if I start supplementing you, I will not use normal levels.
For sure. You might want to boost it.
I may want to use therapeutic levels of nutrients. And that is why when you sit down with a clinical nutritionist, and I highly advise the government to make sure each patient is assigned a clinical nutritionist or a team, right? So that we make sure that we are putting the body back to the state it's supposed to be operating in optimally, so that the patient does not die of malnutrition instead of COVID-19. Because you have two extremes.
Basically giving them a fighting chance.
Exactly.
Yeah. And treatments, as we know, are not quite conclusive because this is a new virus. So we'll be able to actually put them in a better position to fight if they're actually taking in the right nutrients. Now, I'll take us back to the home scenario. You have kids who are usually otherwise playing out in the sun, exercising, enjoying themselves. Now, right now, they're indoors. I mean, it's obviously not as fun as it would be, but they do need that exercise and they do need the sun. So how can families adapt to this in order to get that vitamin D? Should they be basking on the balconies? How can families adapt in order to ensure that they're getting the right amount of exercise and the right amount of vitamin D?
It's good you asked that question because it's not nutrition alone that boosts immunity. There's exercise and there's sleep. So in terms of exercise, I mean, video games aside, that's not exercise.
The real deal.
Yes, we need to go back to the real deal. So there's some games some simple exercises they can do indoors. Jumping rope is one of them, right? If they have siblings, we can go back to our traditional games like kati. You know, back to basics. Bladder. There's so much they can do. There are stretching exercises you can do. You can run on the spot. That is a good cardio exercise for your heart. You can jump, you can run if you live in an apartment building.
Up and down the stairs.
Up and down the stairs. Just make sure you're sanitizing your child's hand and being very strict on them, not touching everything and, keeping social distancing. But running up the stairs, up and down, is a very good cardio exercise. For sure. All right? Now, basking in the sun to make sure we are getting our vitamin D right. Remember I said vitamin D is very important for immune function?
Yes.
So we still have to have it.
Yes, so we have to find ways of getting some sun.
Absolutely. Even if it's going to the balcony for a few hours, right? Just make sure you're getting your vitamin D every day.
All right.
Yes.
And now you mentioned sleep also. Now that we are all isolating and taking part in social distancing, we are forced to find other ways to entertain ourselves that would replace social interactions. And a lot of us are turning to our screens, our computers, our TVs, our iPads and phones. And a lot of times the blue light, we're told by scientists, actually affects our sleeping patterns because your body doesn't know whether it's nighttime or daytime because you're always looking at your screen. So can we be very conscious of that and our sleeping patterns so that our immunity is not compromised because we're just not sleeping?
Right. So there's something called a circadian clock. Everybody is born with having one properly set. So that one means you wake up, your system literally wakes up at X time, and sleeps at X time. But we have totally messed that up, So we have people who are night runners.
Basically.
So throughout the night, somebody is just looking
up,
at the roof. You're
night
up all
owls.
night. The blue light, as you said, has been shown to affect sleep. So it's advised that at least 2 hours before you go to bed, just stay away from your gadgets.
Okay, turn everything off.
Everything, from your phone to your TV, you know, and this is also for the kids.
Yeah.
Because again, the modern parents, some modern parents, use the TV or phone as a pacifier.
As best babysitters.
Exactly.
Way, yeah.
So we need to also check into what we are giving our kids in terms of not interrupting their sleeping patterns, because this is a period that will drive a lot of parents crazy.
Yeah.
And remember, you're also homeschooling them.
And working from home.
And working from home. So it's important to maintain a certain pattern, if possible the normal pattern, right? Such that, you know, the kids wake up at this time, and it's a fixed time. They wake up at a fixed time, they take all their meals at fixed times, we have playtime, we have basking time so that they get their vitamin D, right? Then we have their sleeping time. Right. And once, in fact, if you can, put it down, print it or write it with a pen, stick it
on the fridge or something.
You know, when they see it, it gets into their minds, such that you're working with a fixed, and please as a parent also adhere to it. Don't preach water and take wine. So when you've put your system in a certain pattern, it operates better. Okay.
Yeah, and speaking of that kind of structure, should that also be with the food? Should you also have like a menu set up so that you know today this is what you're going to make and that's it?
Yes. The meal plan or menu, if you may, helps you also to plan financially. Okay. So I know that if this is what I need for a whole week, you budget for it. Right. If you can, buy all of it and store it. So that's if we go into a period where, I mean, we don't know how this is going to go. We hope for the best, but we prepare for the worst. For sure. So if, in case we go into a period where there's complete lockdown, then you make sure that you had a meal plan, you knew what was going to be cooked every day, and you had that already bought. And stored, right? So that you're also not struggling financially. It's again a time to control our kids. They want sausages and smokies and all the bad stuff right now. But we are also looking into a period where financially a lot of people are strained. So it's also a time to have a very honest talk with our kids. Let them know, look, we are dealing with this virus. We just dealt with locust issues. We still are, right? So we have a lot of issues that could compromise our food security and lead to malnutrition. Right. So let your child know that we must plan right. And for us to plan right, there are certain things, mommy or daddy, you may not have right now.
I know, but isn't that easier said than done? Because we know kids, some of them, when they want sausage, that is it. So how do you constructively help the kid eat? Because you might place that, let's take the example of toddlers. You might place that food in front of them and they will just be like, no. Mom, I want noodles.
Right. Yeah. Right. So Corona has introduced, it's going to test two things for Kenya, right? Our health system and our food system. In terms of the food system, it's from globally, nationally, community-wise, and to the household level. So this is I think Corona has come to help us go back to basics. There's a certain switch that
has to be
turned on. So if our children are now, you know, throwing tantrums because they want 1 minute noodles and sausages, they should not even be eating that stuff as often. I mean, those are some of the unhealthiest foods there is. And some of the ingredients in those foods, by the way, compromise the immunity.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Are you talking
compromise the immunity
and things
we're talking
like that?
about. Stuff like the canned like the sausages, the bacon, if you look at the ingredients of that, right? Stuff like what is called MSG, monosodium glutamate. Right. It leads to attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Wow. So you have a kid who is running throughout the house.
Jumping off the walls.
Jumping off the walls. Normally they'll do that to their teacher. Yes. In school. So you don't have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. But now they're in your house. You're stuck with them. So it's time then we go back to basics of what is healthy to eat and have an honest conversation with the child. Tell them, look, I know you've been eating this, but there's now this virus, and if I give you this, you're going to get sick, and
You won't be safe. You
will not be
have
safe.
A fighting
So
chance.
have that conversation.
Yes.
There'll be tantrums, of course, but it's about time put your foot down as a parent and tell them, no, you just cannot, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, aside from that, let's talk about, we talked about the foods that we might be feeding our kids that are not very good, the noodles and what have you. As we try to stock up, many of us might be turning to canned foods because we know they last longer. Yeah. How good or bad are these for us? And baked beans and stockpiles of tuna, all this canned food, because we might be having the right intentions to make them last longer, but then are they good for us?
Of course, for a normal family, they may not even be able to afford that. And that is to the advantage, I must say, because then a lot of the canned foods have ingredients you would rather not have. Yeah. But there are those who don't have those ingredients. So you want to be looking into, it's time for us now to read the ingredients table, which we hardly read. Ever. So look out for stuff like MSG or monosodium glutamate. Look out for stuff like nitrites. Okay. Things like sodium benzoate. Okay. Those are normally preservatives in canned foods. Right. But they normally have detrimental side effects, and some of them have been listed as carcinogens. So a carcinogen is something that could trigger the cancer-forming process. So you want to be very keen about what you're buying. I have seen packaged foods in fridges in supermarkets that do not really have those ingredients. Like there are those that are just boiled frozen foods, right? So those are, I would say, those might be a lot safer. But the key thing is to look at the ingredients. Make sure they do not have a lot of the negative stuff. But also what you can do, if you must use them, before you cook them, clean them. Okay. Wash them, right? At least run them through hot or warm water. Because something like canned beans normally is preserved in tomato sauce and a lot of salt or a lot of sugar. Very salty, depending on what it is, right? Like the pickled ones will have a lot of salt. So you need to run water through that, so that then you're not ending up feeding your family too much sodium, which again leads to inflammation, which is bad for you in these COVID times and not good for immunity at all. Now, on indulgences, you talked about smoking. I want to talk about alcohol, because there's this myth that's running around that we can actually fight corona by taking a certain amount of vodka, a certain amount of alcohol is good for you if you want to fight COVID. I mean, where's the place of alcohol in our diet, honestly? Okay, so there's two things with alcohol. If you're using it topically as a sanitizer, then good. Continue to do that. That's good. That's good for us, okay? So it kills the virus topically if used externally, okay? But once you put alcohol in your mouth, I want us to go back to the basics. What route does it use to get to your system? Honestly, right? Where is corona? Corona is mostly in the lungs, right? The alcohol goes through the digestive system, and its way of it being metabolized or being absorbed into the body is through the liver, right? So gut, liver, stomach, then to the colon, liver. Corona is a different, totally different system. So these two are not merging unless you're inhaling the alcohol, I mean, I don't even see how they merge. No. No. I mean, for alcohol to be able to break the bond on the coronavirus, right? It has to be applied on it. Okay? Literally. So drinking it does not help. let people not use this as a way of wasting money instead of buying alcohol. Food. On alcohol. And alcohol has been shown to increase inflammation. The process of inflammation is the process by which most diseases begin, and corona has been shown to lead to a lot of inflammation. Okay. So you do not want to be taking alcohol right now. You can buy your gin and vodka and whatever. Please use them as sanitizers. Yes, not ingesting them as an excuse for fighting the disease, the virus. Now, that's one you've talked about. Cigarettes, cannabis. Tell us about that. So a lot of people perpetuate the fact that this is seen as a medicine. Please tell them. So, I mean, cannabis is a tricky one. Yes. And I know there's a lot of research out there. First of all, I'm not saying, I mean, Corona is new.
Yeah.
COVID-19 is very new. We don't have any research indicating that cannabis can actually treat Corona. So, I mean, we have some crazy business people out there who want to really use this opportunity. They'll say anything. So I would highly discourage use of cannabis to treat Corona unless there's research done by that. So KEMRI and those bodies, if you're watching, please take that up and do research. That is totally not my space. For now, don't use cannabis as a treatment for Corona because we don't have evidence to that effect. It's been shown to help other things, like for cancer patients in other countries. Stuff like medical marijuana is used as a painkiller, but again, that's a whole topic altogether. And we need to have our bodies first legalize it because it's not legal in Kenya. It's not legal. So you don't want to be
getting yourself on the wrong side of the law in the name of preventing or treating coronavirus. Now, aside from that, there's also the thought of taking hot water consistently to kill the virus in your throat. Tell us about that.
Okay. So, there's so many myths and misconceptions out there. So, in terms of warm water, you can add lemon and honey to that, and also cinnamon if you want. That helps to soothe the throat.
The throat, yes.
So if you have something like a common flu, if you have like a bit of irritation in the throat, I mean, it's also been indicated that it's good to keep the throat moist, throughout the day. So that helps in that aspect. But in terms of it will cure Corona?
No. That's another lie.
So it has its own place.
Now, because we're left with a very little bit of time, I'd like us to talk about how this actually has affected our food systems in the country from a national level and from that point of view. Could you tell us about how that effect is going to be projected in the next few months or even years?
So I work for an organization called Veltanga Healthcare, and what we do is working with food security or supporting communities to enhance their food security. And Corona, as I said, is testing two main things: our healthcare system, and our food system,
among other things.
Right? Including our mental health. Another conversation. So at national level, a lot of time we keep saying we are food secure. Or we are X% food secure. But when you look at a food system, the food system is all the processes and infrastructure that go towards feeding a population. And it's not just about the economics of the numbers, because a lot of times is what is done at government level. But we need to look at the household level. If we go into a complete shutdown for 2-3 months, will these people survive? How many meals will they have, or none at all? Look at a family in Kibera, right? Informal sectors. These are people who a lot of times live hand to mouth already, right? So they have to be out there to make money if they're to eat. Are we looking into a situation where we'll have more people dying of malnutrition than Corona itself?
Because people are already struggling financially.
People are already
job losses. Maybe we have already scaled down to 1 meal a day because the other meals you're getting maybe at your workplace. So we are having those types of situations. How are they going to be playing out?
So in 2014, there was the COHA report, the cost of hunger analysis. And as of 2014, Kenya had lost 373.9 billion.
Wow.
Because of malnutrition, right? Now, we are in a situation where we say, I mean, we just dealt with a lot of climate issues, right? I mean, locusts are still there. I had people say they're
not making it to the news, but still,
they're not making it to the news, but they're still in our shambas eating our produce. We have people, I mean, people have lost jobs. People have received pay cuts. There are people who cannot go out there literally completely to make money. So how are we going to feed these people?
That's a good question.
Because we may have this, we have this virus, it's a reality, and as we're seeing the trend, we are now at 31. They're tracking over 900 more people. We don't know who the 900 have interacted with. So this could go either way.
So what would you, as we conclude, what would your call to the government be?
So my call to not only the government, but also the development and implementing partners. We need to have a contingency plan. On how to feed people. Because if people cannot go out, they still have to eat. Otherwise, they'll die of hunger.
For sure.
Right? So we need to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to feed Kenyans, because nutrition and adequate nutrition is a basic human right.
It is a basic.
And it must be met.
Yeah, it is a basic right. Thank you very much. Stella Kimani is a clinical nutritionist, as well as a Deputy Secretary General at the Nutrition Association of Kenya, giving us her take on what we need to do to tweak, I hope, our nutrition and ensure that we are strong enough in the event of getting this virus. But at the same time, I hope you have learned a lot from this and you'll be implementing that to your life as you continue to isolate. Trix Ingado, that winds up Weekend Express. Thank you for watching.